Hi, everybody. I just wanted to do a quick update before I actually head out, excuse me, of my apartment for the first time in a few days. And I don't want to video anymore the horror, what I call the horror of this process anymore. I was told by my someone who I call my advocate, who has been involved with me in this process, who's a survivor, and almost 5 years now, that that a lot of these videos that I'm posting are scaring people. Well, to me, that's part of the point. I mean, um, but it's not. It's not. You don't want to cause people more anxiety, more fear, whatever it is that they're going through. Because, and you also want to make it clear that that everybody's different. This process can depend on duration of time that you were on the medication. It can depend on how much you were taking. It can depend on your age. If you're older, it can be more difficult. Um, so, it can be different for everybody. So it doesn't mean that everybody. Are there thousands out there going through what I'm going through? Yes. But I also, but are there some that say, "Hey, I was one of the lucky ones. It wasn't that hard for me." Yeah. Um, so I wanted to make this also because I want people to understand what the windows and waves are of this, because someone might see me out today, or they saw me go see my son play at church a couple weeks ago or whatever, and it's like, oh well, his mom's doing great, or yeah, I ran into her at church and she's fine, she looked great, she's doing great. um, that's what's called a window. um, as my advocate said yesterday, his name is David. um, when I spoke to him, I called him out of just desperation. Hadn't spoken in a while. It's like, okay, that was a window. You were out the other day, went to a thrift store, found your little coffee table, whatever. But now you're in the midst of a horrible wave, which is a horrific experience. But and it has been. And so I wasn't able to taper yesterday, which was extremely disappointing. Um, so, by my doctor's orders, absolutely no way. So, in fact, he's insisting I come see him um, in the morning. He wanted me there yesterday, but that wasn't possible. Um, so, uh, I know I've posted articles on it before, but I don't know if they get read or not. But I thought showing this, um, you know, it doesn't mean you feel normal, but it's like, there's hope, because it's like what you have to try to hold on to is that wave and that day, or those 2 days or those 3 days where it's like, Lord, just take me, which is where I've been. Um, it's like you've got to, with everything that you have, um, including if you're a Christian, um, it's like you've got to remember that you've been here before, and then a window came, and you made it, and you don't feel like you can make it. You don't. Your brain is saying no, you can't. The devil is saying no, you can't. um, and fear starts setting in, fear that I promised myself and to God that I wasn't going to have this time through this process. I was like, Lord, this belongs to you, and I'm not going to have a spirit of fear. I'm trusting you with this taper. I'm tapering every 2 weeks by this amount, and it's in your hands. But with that said, God also expects us to use our common sense and listen to our bodies and go, whoa, wait a minute, okay, you're going too fast, you're going to need to slow down, and you're going to need to do more than what you are doing. As I was told yesterday, you cannot do this on your own, Shelley. You cannot. You will fail if you try to do this alone. Did I ever expect that I would be alone going through this process? Not in a million years. But then not in a million years did I ever expect to be going through this process. So it is what it is. It's the hand I was dealt, or whatever. It's the hand, unfortunately, my family was dealt. It's what, whatever we all are going through, whatever loss, tragedy, whatever, and is it something that's unfathomable to me? Yes, because it's 100% preventable, which makes it even more just like, this can't be happening. I cried on my son's shoulders and said, how is this my life? This cannot be real. This can't be happening. I used to tell my ex that this can't be real. This is not reality. This is not happening. We're supposed to be traveling. I'm supposed to be, living, the life of an empty nester, of enjoying my grandson, who I've only seen 4 times in almost 7 months since he was born. Just enjoying all the things that when you're in your 30s or your 40s or whatever that you think about, and living happily ever after, being married, being, and just enjoying life. And your kids are raised, and now they're having their kids, and it's like, no, this can't be my life. But you know what? Other people are saying the same thing, that not just have gone through this or going through this, but a worse tragedy or a loss. Like, no, my child is not gone, or my I'm not paralyzed and can't walk anymore because of a car wreck. This can't be my life. So yes, you say all those things, and and it's hard sometimes. And I read in my devotion, I read these two, Jesus Calling. I read Jesus Today. I read Jesus Today every morning. I'm also reading a book called Switch on Your Brain that my youngest son, Casey, got me, that ties in scripture with also, how our thoughts control our brain. Our genetics don't control our thoughts and all that. It's all more about, and it's written by a neuroscientist, and is backed up by many others, that that there's a certain part of it that no matter how you're feeling, no matter what you're doing, that you've got to, and they've studied a lot of different diseases, including autism, different brain injuries, things like that they have seen amazing results with this book. I've only made it through the first 2 chapters, but it's I can already tell this can be life altering, especially when it gives you the biblical the biblical perspective or theory, and then ties that in with the scientific theory behind that. So it's incredibly fascinating. I'd highly recommend it to anybody who's even just going through depression or whatever, or and it also gives you hope that every morning, no matter even if you're waking up in a state of terror and panic like I have been, that every morning your brain still is producing, new neurons, or whatever it's called. You have to forgive me for my lack of scientific remembrance here of knowledge, but so anyway, but something very important that was said to me yesterday was that you can't do it alone. How many meetings are you going to, Shelley? What support groups are you a part of? And I'm like, none. And well, that's of course he also felt I should be in the condition I was in yesterday. He said, you're in a 911 condition, so you can't make that phone call because someone's going to tell you hang up and call 911, because he felt I should be back in an inpatient care. Um, but with that said, I made a couple of calls, and another story that's you still deal with all these hospitals all over the country that don't believe that this is a reality and that it can take this long to do this with this particular I'm sorry, it's the devil's drug. I'm going to call it that because that's what it is. So but I just want people to understand more that this is the most bizarre, crazy process, because one day you can't get dressed, you can't do, I mean, you can't even describe it, my ex could describe it to you, my mother could, my boys could, well, especially my youngest, and it is beyond belief. And then it's like, okay, but wait a minute, now today it's like, okay, I can get in my car, I can drive, I can put on a little makeup, I can feel like a human again. So that's called a window. Okay, unfortunately, a window does not mean you're done, that you've made it, that you're okay. And so when I've been able to be on your guys' posts, and I'm talking about Facebook now, this will go on YouTube and this one on Facebook as well, and maybe cut up, or I'm changing my photos, or I appear like I'm like, that means that's been more than likely more of a wave of a day. If I'm posting things that people think maybe I shouldn't be posting, and I'm just, well then, or I meant window of a day, if and then if I'm posting the other stuff, it means more than likely that you're back in this nightmare that you're trying to get, to the other side of, so that is the windows and waves. That's the terminology. If you're not familiar with it, I would definitely ask my family, especially my kids. Google it, read about it, try to understand it, so you won't be like, hey, well, I don't understand. Mom was fine. She seemed fine on Mother's Day. She seemed fine. So I don't get it. Well, there's ways to get it. You read, you study, you learn. And that's what I ask of people. And and I even, I mean, I'm unfortunately, this process, people are going to leave you. That's just fact. People can't deal with it anymore. Okay, that happened to me in my relationship. Horrible things happened. We've actually had some contact. Of course, there's remorse. There's like trying to understand, but you're still trying to understand, because I was even talking to my mom about it this morning. It's like, but how did it go from being so supportive, not wanting to leave your side, not wanting, to what happened? And I said, well, Mom, you've had to ask yourself that same question, because the same thing happened, when I moved in with you. So what I have told everybody, these people, it's like, I don't blame anybody. I don't blame anybody for what has happened. First of all, forgiveness is a given with me. Forgetting, yeah, that's hard. That's hard to forget, the hurt and the pain and things. But it's like people cry and they apologize and I don't know why I acted that way. I'm sorry as, you know, as well, I'll just, as my mom, and I don't know what happened to me. I don't understand it myself, and that relationship has been, is being restored. Um, what huge praise to God for that. So, but what I've had to tell people is that you don't, when that happens, you just you don't blame those people. You don't blame, because it is affecting their life in a way that they never imagined, that they couldn't fathom. And it changes everybody's behavior. Your brain is already completely altered, but so it's changing everybody because people have their breaking points. People, it's like, and people feel, and then they hear how long it's going to take or whatever, and whatever is missing from a relationship or whatever it's causing or whatever is happening. It's like, you know what? I tell people now, people that I loved dearly, people that I still care about dearly, or whoever, if they're gone now, if they're not in my life anymore, it's like I don't blame you. I said I blame one thing. Um, is it hard to understand? Of course, there's going to be things that are happening that you're going to go, I can't. I, I don't know how I can process that really. But now's not a good time to try to do that. So, but you can tell them, as far as blame, I blame one thing and one thing only. And it comes out of a bottle that was given to me 17 years ago because I couldn't sleep. Um, that is the only thing that I blame as far as what's happened in my life, where I am now in my life, being alone, but so you have to also get to that point. It's like, and just pray that the ones that are gone, some of them are never going to come back, and that's okay. The ones that truly love you with all their heart and care about you with all their heart, and they're always going to be there, whether they quit commenting on Facebook or whatever, because they just don't know what else to say, whatever. It's like, in spirit they're there. That they're still praying for you. So it's not about blame. It's not about, and yes, you might lash out on, but that's all part of this whole picture. Read about it. Just read about the symptoms. Whether it's agitation, whether it's you're oversensitive and your receptors are just like, they can be set off at the little thing. I've got roaches in my apartment as of yesterday. Oh my God. You talk about like, okay, someone I never had an anxiety attack or panic attack till this all started about 4 years ago. But you talk about something that, something like that. Whereas normally I'd be like, oh my gosh, we got to get some spray. How'd this happen? Because I keep a clean house. Something like that can be like, you're just freaking out. I mean, you're freaking out because it's like, okay, no, okay, this is not happening and not at this time. But, and it's so, you got to put all that into perspective. So I guess, I don't know. I should probably start making a list of what I actually need to say and talk about, because I tend to ramble, another symptom. But I wanted to make more of a positive video, one that shows, first of all, a window, one that shows that it's not all about despair, one that shows there's hope, one that shows that there are things that are going to happen. There's going to be people that are, like I say, they're gonna leave you. If you watch those last videos I posted, it happens. It just happens. People say, I lost my wife, I lost my husband, I lost my sister. Well, it happened to me. your church, you'll lose your church. It's like, wait a minute, you can't lose your church. How does that happen? Um, and then you look at, it's like, how come I don't ever hear about anybody from my church? Um, what's happening to Christians these days? You start asking yourself all kinds of questions, but all those questions just make matters worse, because it's like David said, you can't sit in that apartment and stay in your head. You can't stay in your head. You've got to be a part of a support group. You've got to, go to meetings. And it's like, but go to meetings. I'm not an addict. It's like, well, I met wonderful people in the hospital, wonderful, amazing people, that were addicts. So that when I say that, there's no judgment there at all. But that's not my story. Because I didn't abuse the medication. I was not an addict. So you think, well, I don't need to go to a program. I don't need to go to Celebrate Recovery. You know what? Yes, you do. I was planning on going last Thursday. I was too sick to go. I have a beautiful neighbor downstairs who's been helping me yesterday. She sat with me, came up in her pajamas because she has severe fibromyalgia, a little bit older than me, but and stayed with me for probably over 2 hours, because she knew I was just like, I want out. I want out, and she stayed with me. And then she finally said, you know what? First she was going to bring me dinner, and then she said, nope, you're coming down to my apartment, and have dinner. I'm going to fix you dinner. I don't cook here. I eat a lot of salads, protein shakes. You guys know all that. But never been one to cook for one. So, anyway, so it's like, I went down there. She took me for a walk with her little dog around the apartment complex. That's what you need. That's what you need. People to say, you know what, Shelley? Because to be honest with you, my phone doesn't ring. There's no text messages. There's, and it's hard, but you know what? God's going to put somebody there that's going to say, you know what? Nope, nope. And so what that caused me to do is say, all right, Shelley, shower, get dressed, and you're going to walk one flight down the stairs to Sarah's house. This is the friendship bracelet she gave me, by the way. And I've only known this woman since April. And you are going to have dinner with her. We're going to walk, because I haven't been, since my last 16-mile run, I have not been able to run. I haven't been able to do my normal walking. It's hard. It's hard. It's so hard, even on your better days, because there's dizziness, there's disorientation, there's, and so anyway, but that's what you need. And that's another thing I'm trying to stress to people. That's what you need. You need that person just to knock at your door and say, or text and say, hey, can I, do you need someone to just come sit with you? Because you don't need to be alone. But with that said, you also have to be proactive, as David said. You've got to make that phone call. So I text my daughter-in-law, who's involved in Celebrate Recovery with the music, and I actually got to speak to someone on the phone today, who's kind of over a lot of it there, and we talked for quite a while, and Lord willing, I will be there. Sarah wants to go with me. I will be there Thursday night. I've had someone from my former church try to encourage me to go, but I always thought, like, well, that's not that. Why would I go to Celebrate Recovery? That's until I found out more about it, because it can be whatever you're recovering from, whether it's whether it's depression, whether it's whether it's abandonment, whether it's abuse, whether it's it doesn't mean that it's for someone strictly with substance abuse, which was kind of my understanding of it, having been with people who would talk about it in hospitals. And it's 5 minutes from my house. So, but sometimes you might not be able to, and you might need that person to be like, hey, are you going to be able to make it but that's why, you go and then you have a sponsor or whatever, and they keep up with you've got to have that connection, those connections. Because if especially when you don't have a church anymore, and and then you got to get past your jadedness of church, and you're never going to understand that you're never going to understand why people are never checking on you, from there anymore. You're never going to understand what's going on with that, and you can't cry about it anymore. You can't dwell about it anymore like I've been doing, because that just exasperates your symptoms. You can't dwell on a love that was lost, a life that you thought you were going to have with somebody that you don't have anymore. That you get up every morning and you're by yourself. You watch TV at night and you're by yourself. It's not where you thought life, but my friend Sarah downstairs, her husband, passed away a year ago. So, it's always, someone else is always going through, something more tragic. When you're in a wave, it's hard to imagine anything more tragic. It truly is. It's hard to imagine that it could possibly, anything possibly worse could happen to you, other than the loss of a child or a grandchild, or a loved one. That this is as bad as it could possibly get. And I don't say that again to scare people, because it's not going to be that way for everybody. But I will say, participate, support July 11th, National Benzodiazepine, not National, World Benzodiazepine Awareness Day. Because it's like I said, it's more than likely, if you're watching this right now, you're on the medication, you know someone who is, you're married to someone who is, you have a friend who is, and you've got to be educated on this medication. Things are changing, but it's still going to take a while longer. So I praise God for my doctor who's helping me through this, who is learning, who believes in it, who knows, that, he doesn't know as much as I'd like him to know, but for goodness sakes, he's a gynecologist, but he's been mine forever, and he was the one who said, yes, I will help you, and we're going to do this. We're going to do it together, but you've got, you got to promise me this, you got to promise me that. So anyway, I guess I just, like I say, I wanted to get outside and head out and maybe, run an errand. Sarah has invited me to dinner at her sister's later. I'm praying I'll be able to make that. That's what people who are going through this need, especially if you're alone. And to make that step as to like, okay, I'm going to a recovery group, and forget all this in your brain, like, well, I'm not an addict, I don't need, because that's not what it's about. I will say this to Pam, if you're watching. You've encouraged me many, many times to go and to another class, and you know why I haven't been able to come to that one. But and I have thought the same thing. Why would that's not for me? That's not my story. And I was talking to this lady today, and I said, I feel like nobody's going to understand my story. And she said, it's not about, everybody's story is different. It's about, people are going to be willing to listen. People are going to want to support you. People are going to want to be there for you. You'll make new connections. You'll make new relationships. And that's what you need. And try your best. And it's so hard to forget about all the rest, from the past. If I could erase everything but the birth of my grandson, I believe, of the last 4 years of my life, I would say, Lord, take it away. if I had no memory of it, I would be perfectly fine with that. Except I would like to still have that. Um, but that's not reality. It's not advisable that you do deep, intense counseling as far as like your childhood, your a divorce, or in the past, or things like that. But do you need to have something like that as far as what's going on now? That support that helps people to talk to, people that will understand, people that you will meet that have your same story or have been through it. Um, but we'll understand that the bottom line is this is a person who's suffering. This is a person who needs us. This is someone that we need to embrace. This is someone that we need to check on. Um, you know, and that's what it boils down to, and making that step. And um, and I pray for a church home. I really do. I want to have a church home. So I got to get past that as well, because I love worshiping God. I love being in a house of worship. Um, I mean, you guys know I had a 10-year music ministry. I mean, and my boys do that. I mean, and I miss that. There's a huge void in my life. And so, you know, hey, if anybody's out there knows a local church, I'm in the a lot of you that are on YouTube, which now my videos, by the way, have been seen by over 10,000 views, which is wonderful. Um, and um, but I'm in the Atlanta, Georgia area. Um, Unfortunately, and I say unfortunately because I would like to be out of Henry County, but I'm still in Henry County. But but in this area, or for now, or whatever, I've visited a lot of them, and they're they're not all going to be for you, but I want to find that too. Um, so you know, thought I had going back. That didn't work out. But again, it's you know, uh, blaming, trying to figure it all out. It doesn't get you anywhere. It doesn't get you anywhere. The only person that gets you anywhere is God and your relationship with Jesus. I mean, for me, some of you watching that's not your faith, but everybody's going to let you down. You're going to feel like they're letting you down, including your own children. It's going to happen. It's going to happen, and you got to realize it's what they're going through, and the overwhelmingness